Hey everyone, it's Minu. I wanted to share an example with you that might help as you revise your point of view statements this weekend. And what's pretty cool is it's an example about a former UMD student. His name is Ben Simon. So some of you may have heard Ben's name before. He's also the founder of Food Recovery Network. But this is actually a story about another one of his ventures. It's actually a for-profit venture called Imperfect. And so this venture called Imperfect started back when he was actually working with the Food Recovery Network, and he was talking to his advisors about food waste, and they basically pointed him towards farms as another place where he should take a look at the produce that was being wasted there. So last December, he took a trip to California's Central Valley, really just with the intention of getting to understand the issue. So he went out, conducted interviews with farmers, got to see different farms and also different storage warehouses and places where vegetables are packaged. And what he learned from his observation and from his interviews really was the basis for the company that he was about to start. So in this picture, you see an apple, just looks probably pretty normal to you. But what Ben learned is that uh, basically one of the biggest causes of food waste is the fact that this apple is actually 1 centimeter too small to be sold at a grocery store. So this produce, basically and this applies to pretty much all fruits and vegetables, produce is being rejected because the grocery store has this basically like a beauty standard for each item. So now that we've seen some of Ben's empathy work, some of the things that he's learned, we're going to try to take a stab at what Ben's point of view might look like. So one example we have to start out with is the one we have up here. It's farmers in the Central Valley need a way to reduce the waste they produce from ugly produce because a waste in produce is also a waste of money for the farmer. So to start off, some good things. The user that is selected is in fact someone who Ben talked to, which is farmers in the Central Valley. So that is someone who we have some empathy for. But the need here, the reduce the waste they produce, it's kind of an obvious need that Ben probably could have been able to pick out way before he even traveled to California to learn more about the issue. And then lastly, the insight here is about a waste of money for the farmer. So yes, this is a problem and it is something that farmers stand to lose from this waste, but that doesn't seem to be what Ben's team is really about. They're really passionate about fighting food waste for the sake of fighting food waste. So not sure if this is the exact right point of view for this particular challenge. Another point of view Ben could have come up with is consumers need a way to be educated or motivated to learn about how much ugly produce is wasted at farms because most consumers don't know this is a problem. So our user here it's okay, it's kind of vague, consumers, but really there's some other things about this point of view that we can revise. So the first thing, the need that we have, which is to be motivated or educated. So one thing that really doesn't hint at, though, is it doesn't give us an idea as to why consumers currently aren't motivated or why they're not learning about this. Another thing this solution does is it kind of already says that Ben's solution is going to be something related to advocacy because it's saying that people need to be educated or motivated. So it's kind of funneling him into one direction. And lastly, let's talk about the insight here. So the insight, most consumers don't know this is a problem. I can say that Ben probably learned quite a few more interesting things than that. So that insight's kind of obvious. Maybe not. Maybe he did have to go out and ask consumers if they knew that this was a problem. But I'm guessing it's not the most interesting thing that Ben learned, and it also doesn't really do justice to the observation and interviews that he did do with farmers, with people who work in the storage stations. So keep that in mind, is that insight should really illuminate and show off all of the work that you did before this part of the process. Let's take a look at one more point of view statement. So this one is, farmers in the Central Valley need a way to redefine how consumers distinguish between good and bad produce, because consumers' buying habits reflect the beauty standards set by grocery stores, causing 15 to 20% of ugly yet edible produce to go to waste. You could probably tell even from just how I read that point of view statement that it's a pretty powerful statement, and we'll go ahead and dissect why that is. So to start off, I had mentioned that Ben actually went out to California's Central Valley to speak with farmers. So the fact that he's really building them in as their user is really what we mean by empathic. It's someone who you actually spoke with, or you're grouping together kind of a description of the person who you spoke with. Next, taking a look at the need, redefine how consumers distinguish between good and bad produce. So this is a pretty deep need. It's not hinting that any sort of solution is needed, so it keeps it pretty generative. It's not saying that advocacy or education is the answer. It's really kind of speaking to this kind of deeper need of redefining good and bad produce. And now to talk about the insight. So this insight is pretty surprising, pretty interesting, something that Ben didn't know before he went out to the Central Valley to talk to farmers, to learn more about food waste at farms. So we like this insight because it speaks to really this need. It really backs up why we chose the need that we did. And one other thing about this insight is that it does bring in the grocery stores into the part of the problem, the beauty standards set by grocery stores. So really what this point of view does is it outlines kind of a mission for Ben and his team that would actually make an impact if they were able to solve this particular point of view statement. So fast forward to where Ben and his team is now. So they have since launched a venture called Imperfect Produce, where they reduce food waste and generate extra revenue for farmers while making produce more affordable for families. So basically, they give consumers a chance to buy boxes of these kind of cool looking produce at a discount, and sell directly from the farmer. So basically, they say they're on a mission to find a home for unloved and odd looking fruits and vegetables at a price that is mouth-wateringly affordable. And one thing that Ben mentioned when I talked to him earlier this week was that he really wouldn't have been able to get to where they've gotten with Imperfect without talking directly to the farmers, without, as he said, poking around to actually just spend time to explore the problem. And one other thing that he mentioned that was really interesting is that his mission statement is very much an emotional sort of thing. He said that people are constantly fighting against beauty standards that are set by the media and by celebrities, by the cosmetics industry, and they have a really visceral reaction against that. And so in the same vein, he wanted to kind of tap in on that emotion and say, hey, beauty standards are applied to produce too, and that's not fair. And that's really how they got to Imperfect's mission of redefining beauty in produce.